Greetings, my fellow Poke people. Dookieshed here. Now, it's been about a week since this whole Sylveon thing surfaced. Heck, when I made my last video, we didn't even know it was called Sylveon yet. And since then, there have been a great many theories in regards to this Pokemon's type. I mean, look at this thing. It's so incredibly not obvious what type it is. Don't you find that strange? Visually, every other Eeveelution clearly matches its type. Before we get into what type Sylveon might be, let's talk about what types it definitely isn't. I'd say ground can be ruled out pretty definitively, and there's nothing to make me think it would be rock type either. And while we're on the subject of minerals, some people are saying maybe the name Sylveon is taken from the word silver, so the thing is steel type. But I can guarantee you that's not the case. We'll get into that later. So then there's fighting. I don't know why people are even mentioning this, unless they think these are like belts in love jutsu? And I've seen a dragon or two in my day, and this doesn't look like any of them. Altaria has that cutesy thing going on, but at least it looks like it can take to the skies. This ain't no dragon. And poison? I've seen eradicates that look more venomous. Also, I've heard a few theories that it might be multiple types, but come on people, that ain't happening. There's also some talk of Sylveon being a gender-specific Pokemon due to the fact that it looks so girly and Sylvia's a girl's name. And I think that's entirely possible, but I don't really know what type that would make it, unless they make girl and boy type. I would kill myself a lot. But there are 5 other possibilities that are getting the most attention, and I figured it's worth going over them one by one, and maybe we can come to some conclusion here. Number 5! Ghost! This one seems the least likely to me. There are very few ghost Pokemon, and so far they've all had a look to them that was like, hey, this is a ghost! Except maybe Golurk, but he even has that spooky little ghost head. There are a few factors to consider though. It is the lightest Eeveelution, which could be a result of it being ethereal. Its eyes are definitely on the huge and eerie side, and those ribbons could be seen as some sort of embalming wraps. Hey, maybe if your Eevee faints in full happiness while holding a pink ribbon at night on top of the Bellsprout Tower, you get a Sylveon. Nope. Number 4. Bug. This is a theory I can see for a couple of reasons. The first is this bow, and the second reason is this bow. They look like butterflies. I can also see these eyes as being very buggy. While not all segmented, they do look a lot like the big colorful eyes you see on many insects. There's also this Pokemon's Japanese name, Nymphia, to consider, assuming this name is based on the word nymph, which is a small forest spirit, not unlike a bug in demeanor. But overall, I don't think it's a bug type. I mean, just because it hit a couple of butterflies with some raid and pinned them to its flesh doesn't mean Sylveon itself is a bug. Think about the bugs in Pokemon. They look like bugs, right? Well, for the most part. Number 3! Normal. Now we enter the realm of entirely possible. Just look at this thing. All that pink and those huge glowy eyes. Seem familiar to anyone? I mean, the physical characteristics this thing has just scream normal. I covered this in my last video, but it's even wearing a pink bow, a held item from the game that increases the damage of normal type moves. I'd be willing to put a lot of money on this thing's normality if it weren't for 2 huge glaring problems. Number 1. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if Eevee just stayed normal when it evolved? Said no one ever. If they ever introduce a normal Eeveelution, it better be the last Eeveelution they do, because it's just boring. The cool thing about Eevee is that it loses normal type and gains one of your choice when it evolves. Number 2, wouldn't a normal type Eeveelution look a lot like Eevee? I mean, why would a normal type with this brown color scheme change so drastically to pink and stay the same type? It'd make no sense! Number 2! Flying. Honestly, I only put flying so high on the list because so many people think it's gonna be flying. I mean, I don't think the reasoning is all that solid. There's just not a lot to argue against it being flying type. Yeah, it's the lightest Eeveelution, and I guess those scarves might seem like something a pilot would wear. People have also pointed out that the scarves blow in the wind when it attacks, but I think that's just how attacking is gonna look in X and Y. You can kinda see Fennekin's ear fur doing the same thing. Plus that wind blowing effect is just sort of a cool stylized thing you see in a lot of Japanese media. Possibly the most convincing argument in favor of a flying type Sylveon is in its name. There's actually a mythological creature called a Sylph, and it's kind of an air elemental or spirit. But I think it's more likely that Sylveon is based on the word Sylvan, which means of the forest. So then, since grass is taken, what other type could it be? Number 1! A new type! Let's call it light for now, since that's what a lot of people are speculating. Take a step back for a moment. Now, instead of trying to figure out what type this thing is based on little bits of evidence, think about what types it isn't. I mean, before you ever saw Sylveon, what would you have imagined a flying or bug-type Eeveelution to look like? Probably not like this. Probably not at all like this. As I said earlier, all the other Eeveelutions really do look like their types. Call me crazy, but I really think a new type is what I'm putting my money on here. Big things are gonna happen in X and Y. I can smell it. I mean, how long has it been since they introduced a new type? Lots of years. I mean, why would they introduce this obscure-ass Pokemon and make its type such a big mystery? At a first glance, this Pokemon looks normal type. It fits right in with Jigglypuff, Skitty, Audino, and the rest of them pinkums. But due to a normal type Eeveelution being a terrible and boring idea, I just really don't think that's gonna be the case. So, here is my theory, ladies and gents. What if in Pokemon X and Y, there's a massive retyping of a bunch of Pokemon, specifically a lot of normal types that have that fairy look to them? I mean, this thing's name in Japanese is based on nymph, which is a hell of a lot like a fairy. There are even Pokemon that have fairy as their species. These could all be retyped to some kind of magic or fairy or light type. Maybe there will be 2 new types. I know a lot of people are saying sound type might be introduced. Maybe normal will be eliminated entirely and replaced with light or sound or animals or something, taste type. Anyway, who knows how far they'll take it. I mean, it sure would be really exciting and cool to see an entirely new type of Pokemon, despite the hell we'll all be going through trying to remember how light interacts with 17 or 18 other types. The fans are definitely divided when it comes to what type Sylveon is and whether or not they'd be okay with a new type. So keep your pants on, people. We'll know someday, and I can promise you that as soon as I know anything, you will too. That's why I'm here, so you can be lazy and not have to look shit up, okay? So just subscribe and like, and I'll let you know what's going on. Oh, I have a Facebook too. Facebook.com/dookieshedvids. And hey, while you're here, why don't you check out my other crap? Crap. Okay, laters. Oh, and if you don't subscribe, I'll kill you. I forgot to mention that.